Welcome to a really exciting game played by Magnus Carlsen and Nepo. This is the game 6 of the World Cup FIDE Championship, and you already know 5 games ended in a draw. So we have this one. This is a very exciting one. So without further ado, let's dive straight into this wonderful game. Magnus Carlsen with the white pieces opens the game with this d4. Now knight f6, knight f3, d5, g3, and in this opening, Magnus wants to outplay Nepo out of the books because you already know players are well prepared with the main line. So we have e6, nothing out of ordinary. Now bishop is developed, bishop e7, white just castles or Magnus just castled, and Nepo also. We have b3. Now Magnus wants to Fianchetto this dark square bishop. So we have c5 striking in the center, d takes c5, and now this pawn takes, this bishop takes. So we have this c4. This is a very exciting move. You want to challenge the center. Now this pawn takes c4. We have a very interesting move. If you go for this pawn captures, then obviously your pawns are not going to be good, and it can be captured by the black pieces easily. So Magnus prepared for this and he plays this queen c2. Now if you go for the capture, then definitely you will lose the bishop. So this is out of options. And this rook can come into the game. So let's see what can Nepo bring here. Nepo places the queen on e7, protecting this bishop and threatening to capture this pawn. So we have knight bd2, and now already at move 10 we have a completely new game because now Magnus is offering a pawn sacrifice. So what do Magnus have? Let's see. Nepo doesn't capture it and he goes for this knight c6. We have this knight captures c4, b5, kicking this knight back. So knight challenges the other knight saying, okay, what do you want to do with this knight? Obviously you cannot trade because this bishop's diagonal will be open. So we have knight b4 attacking the queen. So we have queen b2, and we have some very boring move from here, and I will quickly go through some of the moves. After this I will stop at the crucial moment. We have captures, and we have this check and queen e4. Now this is the crucial moment where Magnus spent a lot of time calculating what to do after this move when the rook is coming on d1. So when the king goes on g7, Magnus played this rook d2, and there was possibilities. Commentators were always pointing out that this pawn to e3 is always a good move, and you cannot say that you are winning something upon in this fashion. If you try to attack this queen, then definitely it can move. Obviously you do not want to move it here, and after captures, you can just capture with this rook. And if you think you can win a pawn by this manner, saying okay, if you capture here then you are losing this knight, so obviously not. We are not going to capture, and you have this wonderful knight jumping on c5 attacking this queen, and you cannot go for the capture because after capture you can see white is a piece up and completely winning for Magnus. So obviously this could not be played if Magnus would have tried and played this e3 move. And many of the commentators were saying that obviously this is lost position if Magnus plays this e3 move, but this is not the case. So this was not played in the game, and we have this rook jumping on d2. We have this rook attacking the queen. Now Magnus took a very important decision, and while creating the imbalance in the game, traded the queen for two rooks. So we have captures, and now you can see this pawn is attacked. So this pawn is getting pushed. Now this pawn push took place. So at this is again the crucial moment of this game. After playing this e3, the commentators who were commenting on 24, they said, okay, this bishop move is really fantastic and this is just winning. But this is obviously not the case, because you can just attack it first, and when the queen moves you can just capture it, and after captures you can think that this pawn is going to fall, but this is no worry. After this capture you capture here, and there are two ways. If you play here, then definitely this rook is coming into the game, and if you try to push this pawn, then obviously you cannot go here and do some damage to this pawn, because this check will lose you the game. So obviously, and threat is to push this pawn and you would not be able to capture it. So you would have to find this rook to c1, and now when the pawn is getting pushed you can play this, and this doesn't work because of this move. So obviously this pawn is going to fall, and whenever this pawn starts marching forward. So all in all, this is a good position for white, and I think Magnus would have drawn the game easily with this. But this was not played in the game. And Nepo did not find this. Obviously he goes for this bishop back, and now we see this pawn move. So we have on move third, Nepo found this move, but this is too late. Now this rook is again, and now this pawn is getting weak. So we have rook d1, but this is obviously not the good move. You should have just captured this bishop and do not allow this pawn to be captured by this bishop. But after this, some of the pawns are falling, and now you would see there is a serious threat of playing this pawn push. So the only move that saves the game for white is to push this e4, and this is completely equal, but this was not played in the game, and Magnus just retreats this rook here on c2. So we have this queen coming into the game, but this is a blunder. Now you would have just taken this pawn, and surely you cannot grab it because your rook is under attack. So this is quite surprising why Nepo did not capture it. And we have this queen here, and this pawn would have marched forward to victory, and this was giving minus 1 point something to black if Nepo had continued in a good fashion. So we have the rook joining the attack, and now we have some maneuvers by both of them, and now we reach some time control after 2 hours. After this, Magnus was just low on time and he played this capture. The point is that if you capture here, you would lose the bishop. So Nepo was just thinking what to do with this move, and he was quite low on time, and he was having only 6 seconds on his clock. So he thought just to increase the tension, and he played the most obvious move, bringing this queen downward. So we have this rook coming into the game, and now we have some maneuvers again because this pawn is under attack. You have to deal with that, and now this bishop can do some damage, but definitely not. This pawn is certainly gonna fall after few of the moves, and after this you see this knight is excellent on this d4 square. So this king moves, and now the threat is just to capture this pawn. So realizing the fact, Magnus just captured the pawn. Obviously if you go here, captures, you certainly do not have anything, and white can easily claim a win or a draw because you do not have any threats with this queen, and all the pawns are just guarded, and your 2 pawns are isolated and definitely this is good for Magnus. So after this captures, Nepo captured here using the pin of this pawn. So we have king retreating. Now we have again some maneuvers. This is one of the longest game here, and with this last move, obviously this is attack, but you cannot capture it because your queen is under attack. So queen moves, and now this rook is attacking, so we have again some maneuvers taking place here, and Magnus just want to trade this bishop for this any of the pieces so that Magnus can easily win the game. And we have some maneuvers slow, so I would show you pretty easily, and I will come straight to the crucial moment of this game. After this, when this pawn is falling and now you are attacking this pawn, so obviously there is a wonderful move, you can spot it, and Magnus played it in a very rapid fashion. And after this capture, you certainly know after this capture this bishop is going to fall using this tactic, and now it is Magnus who is pushing for the win. But this is completely equal game for both of them if we talk about the engine. So we have some of the maneuvers again taking place, and this was completely a draw if played with precision, but you already know no one is perfect, and we have some maneuvers taking place again, and we will go straight into the end game where Magnus just crushed. And after this, you can see these two pawns will start marching forward. So we have some of the moves, and in this fashion, this is again the crucial moment. After this check, this knight is jumping here, and Nepo misses something. He just attacked this rook, and it's obvious you do not want to defend this rook. You can pause the video and try to find the best move for white here. Here Magnus spotted the wonderful move, this pawn push. Obviously you cannot capture it because you fork the king and the queen and you win the game. So after this, Nepo just brought the king and this queen into the game. Now this rook is going out. Obviously again you cannot go for the capture, and you do not have any check because of this check, and you capture here, then this captures, and this king is in time to reach forward. So it's obvious you cannot go here. So after this move, the king moves, and now the pawn push is taking place, and this is completely lost position for Nepo. Nepo just brought the king back, said okay, I am going to check you from behind, but this is of no use. Now the knight is jumping forward, and there's a clear cut. This king is moving here, then here, then here, and it will hide on this g8 square, and this is completely winning. So realizing all the fact, Nepo just resigned the game.